The list here comes from those types of bosses which you don't really expect to be as bad as when it comes to the standard of the game. So it's a big surprise when you were dealt with a smack in the face, or miraculous food poisoning, or a screamer video when these enemies hit you dead center. You are a coward. My choices are made up of how strange, disgusting, disturbing, or how distracting a boss is, when being made to get past it and save you a few heartbeats in your lifetime, also saves you from that holographic dope produced by the beasts of virtual play. Not just to say I may over-exaggerate my views when it comes to these dickheads, seeing as nothing really freaks me out that much, and well, I gotta say something to make them presentable and unappealing in every single way. So that's fine. I would also like to say that making this list with the rankings I had was quite tough, because it's hard to choose who's more disturbing than the other, based on looks, action, setting, music. Not so much though, and other factors. So without further ado, here is the top 20 most disturbing bosses in non-horror video games. While playing Ninja Gaiden 2, I was really excited to see what the archfiend would look like at the end of the game. Did we all? His complete form wasn't actually too bad, but I gotta be honest, his incomplete form is the one that takes the cake. It hangs like a spider monkey, has an intensely lazy eye, which was probably what caught my eye when it came to it, no pun intended, and has exposed ribs. When you shoot it, it coughs up 8 pints of blood, which can take off a bit of your health. That's a pretty grim way to kill someone. Spit in my face? Nah. Throw up on me? Overdone.
Bleed on me?
Run for the hills!
Index now!
Considering Mischief Makers has one of the most bizarre and ridiculous storylines in video gaming history, it's no doubt they'd install something to embrace that weirdness. And here we have Emperor Leo. Now when Leo was first introduced, he doesn't seem like much of a threat with his generic dialogue. He just looks like a psychic stone tablet, which is slightly freaky at first, but it gets freakier when you actually face him, and the biggest amount of pessimism strikes, as negative words appear on the screen, but you need to shake them to make them optimistic. Yeah, if only it was that easy, mate.
Index oith.
What is more to be said about such an appearance? A mix-up of sumo wrestling, masked wrestling, and blacksmith-ing. Plus he has no jaw with an oddly shaped tongue. And you know how I feel about eyes. If you don't, I don't like people touching my eyes. Clumper from Prince of Persia: The Two Thrones surely made me try to understand that when playing this game, that a guy needs to lose weight to retain a peachy ass.
Index size.
Zombies Ate My Neighbors was one of my main childhood games, to which I mutilate thriller zombies with cutlery. Until the end came. When I was younger, spiders freaked me out, but now I love them. So yeah, Mimi is not on this list. However, when a giant spider turns back into Dr. Tongue, and into a Dr. Tongue head, and the more damage that head takes, the more mad looking it gets. Dead channel. There is a disturbance.
Index queer.
The city is changing, and I'm changing with it.
Now, Prototype is already a game that's filled up with gore and wild creatures, but the fact that someone like Elizabeth Green, who is already a psycho, and sends out hunters to annihilate you, isn't enough. She's one of the only things in Prototype that actually looks pretty brutal. And if you thought that possessed-like appearance was bad enough, just wait until you see a giant tumor made up of 1,000 smaller tumors with a big anus-like mouth thing in the middle. So do I still have to refer to her as a she? How can anyone transform into this? What does she do with those whiskers? Doesn't move anywhere. Okay, I refuse to ask any more questions. Why the hell is she releasing kidney stones?
Index pimp.
I've been watching you, waiting for you, anticipating it.
Sasha from Infamous is disturbing in the way that she doesn't leave you alone and causes you to hallucinate giant terrorist reaper things, and those seem a bit freaky in themselves. When you meet her though, she hides in the water, waiting to come up and lick your face to death. Not only that, but her tongue looks like a Las Plagas parasite, which looks pretty gross in itself. Lastly, the dialogue during this fight is pretty twisted.
Expecting us at 7. Of course it's formal. Ale tuxedo. And meat soup from the homes. You want to taste?
Yummy!
Index pedwa.
Now come on, you knew this had to be somewhere on the list. Most bosses in the Metroid series don't really come off as surprising with their monstrous appearances. Nightmare, on the other hand, catches you off guard completely. At first, he just seems like a robotic stalker, but he only gives that creepy impression as the build-up of the fight continues. When he properly appears, you assume his name comes from his sadistic mask, but then you realize that with every hit, slime oozes out of his mask. And you're thinking, don't do it, don't do it, don't do it. I did it! Even when you see his face, it doesn't stop there. His face becomes more grotesque with each hit, as his face keeps melting. But it's not just his slime, it's the way it stares like it hasn't got a care in the world. Nightmare also makes another appearance in Metroid Other M, which has your standard 3D Metroid music. I gotta say though, the developers made a good job with the 3D design. In this version though, the revealing of his face is pretty predictable, so how could they possibly make it— Oh my god! Why is he screaming like a baby? I'm pretty surprised that people say this is a puppy compared to the one in Fusion. Sure it's easier to beat in this game? Even the mask, it still stares like you like it's messed up.
Index 3.
Now I had a choice here. Either a scientist who was responsible for the killing of Edge's parents by turning them into chimera, and then transforming into skeleton, dinosaur, asshole, or a womanoid who influences the main antagonist into the violent, cold monster that he is, has many disturbing forms, or this. Well, guess who I chose? You were completely wrong, even though you didn't choose it. People want to know where Genova's head is. I mean, do you? Take a look at beauty in its finest.
Die they.
For the fight against Majora, the whole scenery is eerie, besides from each form that it transforms into. But speaking of his forms, words cannot describe the bitch-slapping, sucking dick that is a heart-shaped mask, humanoid, heart-pumping, childish, squealing horror of a circus freak. Link, why have you not cracked yet? Or is this what made you a funny shape in Wind Waker?
Innerving.
I find this hilarious and I have no shame in saying it. A giant turd, throwing turd, that sings in an opera style, has two sides to it. Funny and disturbing as you guessed. Which is why it's not much higher on the list. Sure, it's absolutely fucked up, but it's hard to take seriously. It doesn't help that the way to beat it is to throw toilet paper down its throat. That corn right there adding for a nice collection to his teeth. Even more disgusting, also cruel, and its mouth moves funny when it sings. Eat your heart out, Muck. The fight with Matt Helms already starts off in a creepy setting, where you were confronted by a man wearing a creepy, clown-style mask, and is a ruthless, psychotic, mangled, laughing, blowtorching idiot who aims to burn down his house. When you kill him though is when he becomes ridiculously weird. His head explodes assuming he's dead. Wait, no, when a child whispers, I asphyxiate myself with a pillow in shock. Also doesn't help when he carries a hatchet, by the way. And that he swears to kill his parents, by the way. Clotho, how I live to spread my weight in your arms. From the moment you encounter this douchebag, I hope you don't have to massage her. And it's only until you reach the top that you see her face, which is absolutely repulsive. God of War is known for its sheer gore and creative bosses, and they definitely went all out with this. What I find more disturbing about it though, is the irony and being morbidly obese, yet having skinny arms. Also to note, Clotho having a decent amount of fighting in her, shows her charms benefit her skill, which is why she earns her spot at number 9.
And at the end of fear, oblivion.
The creepiest version of the Scarecrow ever. It's not so much his appearance, except that he has needles for fingers, and when he finds you, it's game over. He taps into your worst fears, and Batman's are pretty gross, depressing, like his parents being located in body bags and talking to him, and playing as the Joker. Nice! Plus his voice is much different to that in Batman Begins, and it's also somewhat creepier, because to be honest, a raspy voice is pretty much overdone now.
Inside your head, Wayne. He's gone. Just a twisted shell of a man. Cut me free!
And I gotta ask, if you were affected by fear gas, what would you see? Your own tombstone engraved with piss? Sonic the Hedgehog's dick? That may be reality. What would I see? Legs.
Scythe.
will move your controller by the power of my will alone.
Nah, not disturbing, just crazy.
I am the sorrow. Like you, I too am filled with sadness.
The sorrow is so much better than you. And if I grow up a little, I could say that this guy or ghost really sends a chill down my spine. The way he talks as if all hope is lost. The way his eye randomly starts to bleed. And all the way through the fight, if you can call it that, you see the ghost of soldiers that Snake has killed. Really making you reflect on what you've done. I feel like I did the right thing though. I shot the enemy because he didn't choose my side, and I call that treason. However, it's not right when they try to attack me, because they go straight through me. And he has a move which, that's where screamers come from. Now I'm aware almost everyone knows the story about Giygas, so for those who don't, let me supply an abridged definition of Giygas. Giygas is blood, swirling around, and in the center is a skull. Playing in the background of the boss fight, just noises. He's inspired by a childhood trauma, where the creator thought he witnessed a highly graphic rape scene, which his trauma led to the dialogue, implanted within this prick. He has many forms. One supposedly resembling a fetus, which the creator himself has already disproved. But considering it's linked to rape, it's quite coincidental. Just the meaning behind this guy, yeah, it's a guy, is enough to make the viewer crack. However, it's only at number 6, because it just doesn't have the same effect as it used to. I've viewed him so many times and, I don't know, more disturbing stuff just comes out of the woodwork in good time. Nevertheless though, the creativity is still cherished. It's Nightmare from Devil May Cry. Being chased by black goo, which if you're swallowed up by, takes you to another dimension of scary bullshit where flying skulls attack you and you have to face a Tarantulopian, isn't enough. When you reveal his true form, you think, I'm shocked and appalled. Seriously though, what the hell is that? I read before that it's made up of skulls of his fallen victims, so from that it beats the body weapon, hence also the skeletons in the goo. Okay, yikes is my final answer. And speaking of slugs earlier, that's what this thing looks like. And that intensely goes through me. I do not like slugs. Also, looking at the picture on his wiki page, is that a face? Should this thing have a face? Yeah, no. As you step into the cage with Pandora, you're in for something bad and depressing. It seems like the developers actually wanted you to freak out. Here's a scenario by playing a special video. You're fighting a pretty girl. But her wrist is broken. And her ankle is broken. And she's sniffing an arse. And next to her tit is a giant dick. And that's where her head is. That is all.
She's become the beast.
This doesn't actually go to the broodmother. As grotesque and tit-drenched as it may be, I found something completely worse. Something that just toys with your brain through appearance and speech. And that is the mother from Dragon Age Awakening.
Now the pieces fall into place. The Grey Warden comes, the instrument of the Father. Oh, and the Father, he is but a shadow. Oh.
It seems like the main thing has a few modifications, such as the fact of being an old hag with eyeliner dripping down her face, and wrinkles on each side of her face. Her necklace makes it look like her throat has been slit. Her dialogue consists about caring for her children. You'll know the story of how broodmothers are formed. The Darkspawn capture people, eat some of them, particularly men, take the women to throw up in their mouths, for them to grow into the beast. Here's the thing though, the mother is the cause of all this. She willingly spawns Darkspawn, not a tongue twister anymore, so they can do the work for her. But the one reason why she's high on this list is because...
Come.
the Cerberus. Alright, I'm fine. No more. Fine. The Cerberus, according to Greek mythology, is a three-headed dog which guards the underworld. So what did Dante's Inferno portray it as? Worms that sprout out of a giant mouth. Just a big, fleshy sack. Feasts on souls, then disgorges them. This thing is just nasty on every level. It just looks so out of place. With its giant human hands, and the fact that it represents gluttony, and it comes up close and personal. It has inside-out skin, and to any normal people, it's indescribable. Plus, look at it from that angle. What I would hate to do is fight anyone with a messed up face. So, what could possibly beat that? See you next Tuesday. Okay, that was actually a pun for this. It's Queefs! It's Queefs! Why? Just why? How could you possibly expect a boss like this in a game like this? It's quite ironic that I'm taking shots at a giant female reproductive organ. But why is this at number 1? How does it possibly beat the Cerberus? Simple, it just seems so unintentional. With the Cerberus, developers really knew what they were doing. I hope, anyway. You can't just attach 3 worms to a body and say, I made a mistake. The developers for this game just simply said, okay, let's just put the mouth here. No, not mouth, vagina! And let's put a dozen eyes around it. Ovaries! The fact that it has creatures coming out of it signifies it being a giant mammoth uterus. And I read a few things off its wiki page, which made me lose my sanity a bit. The Rakk Hive was the first boss to be publicly revealed for Borderlands, appearing in certain promotional videos before the game's release. No wonder the game used to be underrated. The Rakk Hive has a concealed attack to the rear, liquid feces on nearby targets. Just get me away from the back door, please. The Rakk Hive will continue to breathe after being defeated, and its organs can be seen still moving around through the gaping hole that appears in its side. Gape! The name alone, Rakk. Well, I'm pretty sure you know what a Rakk is. It's just, I don't want any vag to eat cabbage. I think it needs to visit a gynecologist. And there you have it, my top 20 most disturbing bosses in kid-friendly video games. Thanks for watching, lights out.